travel isn't just about destinations, it's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabocha, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this 30th day of June, the last day of the month. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and that you're well this morning. The 702 open line starts now on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line 072-702-1702. What do you think President Cyril Ramaphosa should do about the DA's position now on the National Dialogue and their intention not to vote for departmental budgets of compromised ministers? Because it seems their plan is to let the president fire them instead of walking away, whereas the president and the ANC would rather see them walk away from the GNU as opposed to fire them. So we're stuck with a marriage here that is unhealthy, that is toxic, that's abusive, and none of the parties in this marriage are willing to leave. So what must happen? Despite threatening consequences, severe consequences I should say, if President Ramaphosa doesn't fire those compromised in his cabinet, the DA has now announced it's not leaving the GNU. John Steenhuisen says the DA has resolved to withdraw rather from the National Dialogue. They've resolved that they won't support departmental budgets involving ministers who are compromised. They mentioned Tembi, Simelani and Nobuhle Nkabani. John Steenhuisen also said the DA believes the president is failing to uphold his work to act against corruption. So FedEx has decided not to table a motion of no confidence at this stage, but at a later stage that may very well be considered. Or is that another threat? I said it even on Saturday after that briefing, until the DA acts on its threats, some of which have been so dramatic, they are weakening their future negotiation position. The ANC is going to continue to do as it pleases because it knows the DA has been threatening from day one. From the time the president was appointing his cabinet, Helen Zille was writing letters and threatening that if we don't get the ministries like this, then there's going to be trouble. There are many times when there have been red lines that have been crossed, and I think that's going to compromise the position and strength of the DA in future negotiations. How do you see it? Let me know, please, on 011-883-0702. Is the DA always going to be the sacrificial lamb? Taking the bullet for South Africa because they care so much? Because that's what they want you to believe, right? They don't want you to know that if we walk away from the GNU, that also compromises us a bit in as far as our political interests are concerned. I remember having a conversation with Rolf Meyer a couple of months ago on Face the Nation. It was about, because he's the former Minister of Constitutional Affairs in the GNU, the first GNU in this country. And he was sharing with us some lessons this new GNU can learn from the old GNU on how to manage their differences. And of course, the context of these different GNUs were different. But one of the things he said was that the National Party left the GNU in 1996 during then President Nelson Mandela's presidency, which he argued led to the party's collapse and disappearance from the political scene. So if the DA decides to leave the GNU, they could face the same fate. That was the argument. In fact, listen to what Helen Zille said. So I recorded a conversation with Helen this morning because she wasn't going to be able to join us at 10 o'clock. So I'll play this interview in full at 10 o'clock. But I was trying to say to her that you can't just be a sacrificial lamb that's sitting there and is constantly being abused. And then you always say, yeah, but we care about South Africa, because that's exactly what the DA has been doing throughout. And then you issue ultimatums when they're not responded to. You're left with egg on your face. Now you must find other reasons for severe consequences, even when those reasons are not so severe. So here's what Helen Zille said. And just so you know, there's a beep there because she used very strong language, frustrated by perhaps what I had asked or how it appears. So we have beeped it just for your context. So you are the sacrificial lamb for South Africa. You're willing to take the bullet to avoid South Africans being compromised.
No, we're not going to lie there like a sacrificial lamb taking a bullet. We're going to fight
That's how it
back.
appears. That's how it appears, Helen. Yeah, she was frustrated there. That's Helen Zille. I'll play that information in full at 10 o'clock. Make sure you don't miss it, please. So, have you been paying attention to this impasse as well surrounding the burial of former Zambian President Edgar Lungu? The Gauteng High Court ordered that the burial of Lungu be halted pending a court application filed by the Zambian government. The Zambian government wants him to be buried in Zambia. His family says, no, he's going to be buried here in South Africa. And in fact, the family at some point said, okay, fine. If he's going to be buried in Zambia, we don't want President Hichilema to preside over the funeral. But the government of Zambia says, no, this man's legacy is a national asset. So we're going to try and get really at the bottom of what's happening, especially from the Zambian government. We'll speak to Cornelius Mwetwa, who's the Zambian Minister of Information and Media at 9:30.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Tumelo, you're calling us from Pretoria. Good morning.
Good morning, Major. How are you?
Hi, grand. Wena?
Grand, my out.
Sure.
I have got a different take on the issue of Cyril and,
Yes.
And the DA. I think people, they may think like DA, they've chicken out. But what they have done, they have hit Cyril where it has the most. I'll tell you why. Cyril, he is so in love with the National Dialogue. By DA not participating, they are making that National Dialogue worthless. And that is going to really, really hurt Cyril. Number two, by voting against the budget for the ministers that they are implicated on this shenanigans, they are also going to hold the ANC back. So Cyril now, he is in a quagmire because DA, what they are doing, they are exposing him. Why are they exposing him? His inconsistency in terms of his approach. He is not in charge of the ANC. He is so because the ANC minister, out of a whim, he acts so irrationally by firing this guy, who, by the way, sent an email, and it was ignored by the presidency. So, Mapisa Ngabula went to Zimbabwe using the military state. She comes back. She get to be reprimanded. It was done later. So, DA, in a long term, they are going to benefit from this strategy. It is not ideal for them to move away from the GNU.
Well,
but they have hit him most. Withdrawal on the National Dialogue and not voting against the budget for these ministers. They are implicated on the corruption scandal.
Yeah, and who's going to vote for their own departmental budgets? You think the ANC ministers are too naive, or, for lack of a better word, stupid enough to go lend their support to departmental budgets run by DA ministers, even when the DA ministers themselves have chosen not to support some of these ANC ministers' departmental budgets?
Then the GNU die its natural death, because it's not going to die at the hands of DA. So either Cyril fires them from the GNU, or it dies its natural death.
Yeah.
So therefore, anybody can walk away still holding their integrity intact.
Yeah.
Because if DA now were to move away from the GNU, the public will have an outcry that they are walking away because you understand. So they put Cyril against the back wall. He must act against them, or his ministers, they're going to act against him.
So, and that's the tricky part, I suppose. Yeah, and Dumelo, thank you for that. Let's hear what the other listeners think. I think you're raising a fair point about this being a strategy on the part of the Democratic Alliance. But I don't know if it's going to work because the president himself is applying the same strategy. The president doesn't want to be the one that fires or pushes the DA out and fires their ministers. The ANC doesn't want to be that person because they also know that they're going to be faced with a quagmire. They're going to be faced with a complex situation of deciding what to do next because the president is going to be vulnerable in parliament should a motion of no confidence be tabled. But also, who do they even work with? They don't trust the EFF. They don't trust the MK party. They themselves know probably that this is a better devil to work with. Because the EFF is not just going to sit and expect. And in fact, I tell you now, if the EFF was the DA, do you think they were going to constantly make this threat to walk away from this coalition and continue to allow the ANC to do as it pleases? That would never be the case. That would never be the case. And the ANC knows probably that the DA is the easy here to just manipulate and control like that. Just take decisions as if you are still in charge and you want 60% of the votes, but we know they're not going to go. I bet you they would never try that with the EFF because the EFF would probably walk away a week after they signed that deal because you went and took decisions and didn't consult them. So the ANC doesn't want also to be seen as we're going to push them out of the GNU and we're going to be expressly clear that we are done with them. The DA doesn't want to be the ones that say, oh, we are walking away. Hence I said, we're stuck in a marriage here that is abusive, that is toxic, but both partners are not willing to walk away. They're not willing to file for divorce. So who's going to do it? Tabiso, you are in Polokwane. Hi.
Clement, one day if you decide to come to the show and you don't say that way, that's the show, I'll be very happy.
Did I not do it today?
You did it, actually.
Oh, okay.
You did it, actually. So I was just waiting for it. That's only when I was holding. I was waiting for that buzzword. If you don't do it one day, I'm going to be very happy and I'll write.
Listen, there's a time when I didn't do it and Abel indicated that you didn't do that. And there were already calls coming in and WhatsApps, people saying, how dare you not say that's the show? So
you must not. You see, Clement, yeah? Let me tell you, the DA have analyzed this. I mean, I hope I was in that meeting of the DA. They've analyzed this particular situation. DA, remember the ANC got 40%. So now the ANC need about 11% for any decision that they want. So now the DA wants to appear as if they are defending the so-called democracy in our country. And it's not, it's a lie. Power is very nice and is very tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've tasted the power. Now they are, as you have said, you analyze it quite very clearly. Yes, you have said. They are looking for each and every excuse that is available, and they are going to run out of excuses as and when they put an ultimatum to say they want the GNU and all of that and all of those. So now, that's what it's very nice power, because I might not be sexual on this one. I know there might have been the people who call them and say, but really, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do on this one? That is really, can you be there for until the end of the day? You remember the first GNU in this particular country, the National Party just walked away. But the DA can't walk away, even though with that particular percentage that they have. Remember, they still have a 40 plus. But then secondly, what is very funny, for example, they would say that they are not going to support particular parties. Let's go for the National Department of Higher Education. There's a deputy minister of DA there. What's going to happen? I want to see this. Are they not going to support the budget where they have a deputy minister?
Yeah.
Based on their own reasoning.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me. Because all the budgets will therefore be prepared. All the budgets, these people are members of cabinet. So now, they say they are not going to support the budget. But the other point, they say, no, they are not going to participate on the national dialogue. This is a national dialogue, which all of us want to participate. Let me tell you why. We spend much of our time, energy, calling in your shows and many other radio calling and debating and arguing about issues that affect our country. So now we are given an opportunity to be able to find expression on all these particular issues that we can't resolve on talk shows.
Do you think government doesn't know these issues, Tabis?
They know them. They know them.
So now, what? We just need to spend 700 million rand to hear them again.
No, I agree with the budget. I think that's wrong. But I'm saying I want a legal basis that would say that the decision that is going to be taken is what is going to happen insofar as the National Dialogue Council. But whether the DA participate or not, as South Africans who are going to participate in the National Dialogue, want to take decisions, want to find expression into how the electoral system of our country must change. And all of that.
Yeah, and we don't know for sure, Tabi. So if all of the suggestions you are going to put as members of the public are going to be legally binding, and I said this when we discussed the budget the last time, guys, at the end of the day, especially if you're going to make suggestions for constitutional changes, it must still go back to Parliament. It's the very same politicians must be the ones that vote. I gave an example. If the majority of South Africans are saying death penalty must come back, what are you going to do as government? What are you going to do as politicians? It gets to Parliament, and what do? Vote against it because you think it's unconstitutional and it's going to... Then what was the point of the conversations? And that's not because, by the way, I agree with the death penalty. No, I'm just trying to illustrate here that for as long as there is no commitment on the part of government that whatever you and many other millions or thousands of people out there are going to talk about, that's going to be... The politicians, especially even in Parliament, have a buy-in here. They are committing that whatever you people say, South Africans, our people, we're going to implement it. For as long as we don't have that commitment, then I think this is a talk shop. You're going to go and suggest things. At the end of the day, it's the politicians that must still decide what works and what doesn't work. Let's hear from Moshere now, who's calling from Pretoria West. Moshere, what are your thoughts? Hi.
Look, man, morning. Look, the issue of this national dialogue is just to destabilize those who have been critical about government, so that next year when we go into the election, they will be in support with the very same government, in order not for the people to see what the government is. It's a waste. Clement, we know very well what is it that we need. We need job opportunities. Clement is clear that government knows very well. If they don't know what are they doing in government, if up to now they don't know what's supposed to be happening, that people want on the ground. It's not the issue that I've got. Clement, look, for me, the position that the DA has taken to stay in government is good, because we've been exerting pressure on government for Ramaphosa to remove ministers who are compromised, and it's not doing that. At least now we're having political party that is close to government that might force Ramaphosa to remove these ministers that we have been complaining about. Ramaphosa is keeping them. If Ramaphosa removes the DA, then we will know very well that Ramaphosa, he has shown clearly that he stands for corruption. He doesn't want to remove ministers who are compromised. Then going to the election, that will be clear to see that ANC government, Ramaphosa protecting those who are involved in corruption, those who are alleged to participate. Then as South African, what position do we do? Because we cannot have a president where we have been complaining about these people who, in the Zondo Commission, has appeared. He is just recycling these ministers, giving them another portfolio. What must we do as members of the public? Because we have been complaining about these people.
True. And I think, Mashara, you're right. Also, what must the DA do, guys? When you've been so undermined day after day, what does the DA do? Do they just sit there and do nothing? Look, and I do think that the strategy here is a bit weird. You give a president an ultimatum when you have no backup plan. I think that's weird. You've tried. I do agree. I do think it somehow weakens their negotiating positions in the future. When you get to a point where you're just making threats and ultimatums, have a backup plan. Have a clear strategy. But at the same time, I do believe that the ANC has been acting as if they won 60% of the vote. I've said this many times, even to the ANC leaders. They are in charge with and this other smaller parties are not going to complain. Of course, they're not going to complain much about this. I mean, some of them are really being done a favor. You probably would forget about their name soon. But now here is an opportunity for them to be in the GNU. So, of course, they're going to stick around for some time. The ANC can continue to be taking decisions unilaterally. Both the ANC and the DA are the two biggest parties in the GNU. They don't even agree on that concept of sufficient consensus and what it means. So at some point, the DA has to act. But what are you acting based on? And if you are going to be the sacrificial lamb, just declare it like that then and say, we're just going to we're going to stick around, even though they abuse us, even though they don't consult us, even though we're going to get angry, and stop issuing out threats that you can't back up, because now you are seen to be weird. In fact, you are saying to the ANC, keep on doing what you do. We're just going to make threats, but never walk away. Be decisive. Kustas, you're in Midrand. Hi.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Hey, Clement, I am, out of a disappointment of what the DA told us. I think I worry about the leadership of John Steenhuisen and in the DA and the credibility which the DA is currently losing in the eyes of the South African public, but not only that, even within the GNU. This federal executive, when Clement, is the weakest of the DA I've seen. And the current decision, these own goals, these unprovoked own goals, put us in a position where I don't think that the DA as a political party can truly be trusted to run even this country for that matter. Now, let me probably just explain, Clement. As I see it now, John Steenhuisen should not have allowed some of the decisions to go through. If he does not the decision doesn't lie with him, but they would blame it on him, it lies with the federal executive. This federal executive needs to go because it's misleading. But not only that, it takes out the credibility of the Democratic Alliance, one, in the eyes of the public, two, even in the GNU. You know, they're like I used last week, I said they're like a barking dog that cannot bite. It's even worse right now. The motion of no confidence that they're talking about, you know, Clement, it won't even pass because they have no allies. Now, what kind of political party is this that has no allies in parliament, has no allies in the state of Johannesburg? The only allies they probably have is FF Plus and ACTP. You know, so a motion of no confidence, again, is a threat that is a storm in a teacup. They don't have the numbers. They cannot collapse this government by any chance. So it's not even supposed to be mentioned, particularly when you don't have political capital to get it through. Because in parliament, as things are, the dislike for the Democratic Alliance within the GNU is greater than the people that they dislike Ramaphosa, for instance. You see? So picture that. They hate DA more than they would hate Ramaphosa. What do you think DA is going to do? It's not going to go anywhere. So there's no point of these threats. They must just sit down, keep quiet, and I think the strategies at the back at federal executive need to sit down. Okay. And I think that they're misleading the country. So now here we are, when Clement, and I'm saying to you that we need a Democratic Alliance that works for everyone. This one isn't. And unfortunately, the credibility is going down. Thanks for taking my call.
Kustas and Midrand, thank you for your thoughts. It's 9:30.
Travel isn't just about destinations. It's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabotja, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
24 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. We are taking your calls on 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. We've been asking you about what President Cyril Ramaphosa should do now that the DA has taken this position that it will not participate in the National Dialogue, but also won't be voting in the departmental budget vote, voting for the budgets of departments run by quote-unquote compromised ministers. You're sitting with a situation now where the DA says, we will not walk away. You've got a president as well who says, I'm not going to fire you, it appears. So nobody is willing to file for divorce. So what happens?
Morning, Clement. Clement, according to my understanding, I was reading one of the documents of the DA for 2012. I think that is part of their vision, 2029. They will never leave GNU. They will never leave GNU. They can give us those threats, they will never leave GNU. Because it's part of their strategy of running government in 2029 election. DA, they like the power. They will never leave GNU. They will never. Those threats, they will never become a truth. They will never leave GNU. They are just playing politics. Because if they leave GNU, what they are going to explain on their constituencies, what they are going to tell their own voters, what did they fail? Thank you, Clement. It's Nati in Boxburg.
Good morning, Clement. You know the DA. I'm speechless. They have shown their immaturity in government. It's not like the ANC took away their place. The ANC, the president, let's say, he fired Mr. Whitfield. And he's given them and said, right, put another person. So it's not like their place has been taken. And they are reacting like this here. And this is exactly what we see in our corporate structures with the people that we work with. The DA were reacting from a point of privilege. How dare you? How dare you do your job, Mr. President? I know you don't do your job most of the time, but how dare you do your job this time? Ralph in Boxburg.
Yeah, but Ralph, the president didn't do his job. His office didn't respond to an email. How broken is the system that when you are asking for permission as a leader, you just look at the request. Oh, and then you acknowledge receipt, but you're not interested to respond to that. I think the presidency must also answer to that. As I've said, I have seen emails that have been sent by some deputies and ministers. Within a matter of days, they get responded to. Whether there's a directive the president has sent out to say nobody must leave and go to the US or not. When someone makes a request, it's like my boss saying, guys, we shouldn't travel for the month of June because we've got an event at work, and I still ask to travel for personal reasons, and the boss just looks at it. How is that leadership? Leadership is, hey, Clement, as we've indicated before, nobody is allowed to travel. So as a result, your request has been declined. Does it take a lot for the president's team to do that simple task of responding to an email? So, for as much as I do think Andrew Whitfield was wrong for going there without express approval from the president, and I've told him that when I interviewed him, and he admitted that it was wrong judgment on his part for taking silence, right, as consent. Equally so, we must ask serious questions on the president's part. How are you failing? How is your team failing to do the most basic thing? Hi, Minister, Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield, you are not allowed to travel. Wrap it up. And if he goes ahead, then your decision is even backed. Because you can indicate that I told him not to go. And he still defied me. That's insubordination. So I don't think the presidents or even his team did their work here. Because they ignored an email that should have resolved all of this. It's 20 minutes before 10.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
So I've been asking you about this impasse surrounding the burial of the former Zambian president, Edgar Lungu. How much attention have you been paying to this impasse? You may remember the Gauteng High Court last week ordering that the burial of former President Lungu be halted pending a court application filed by the Zambian government. The Zambian government wants him to be buried in Zambia. His family doesn't seem to want him buried in Zambia. In fact, from what I have observed is that they're saying if he is going to be buried there, then they wouldn't want the president to preside over the funeral. So what's really going on here? I've invited Cornelius Muetwa, who's live to us from Lusaka in Zambia. He's the Minister of Information and Media in Zambia. Minister Muetwa, thank you so much for speaking to us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Why has the Zambian government approached the courts to stop the burial here in South Africa?
Well, that decision was taken out by the Attorney General, who is the custodian of public interest. So it was a public interest policy position to take out that court case in order to halt the burial of the former president of Zambia, because truth be said, there is no justifiable cause really to have taken the decision that our colleagues have taken. And I can now begin to indicate to you and to your dear listeners that it is becoming apparent that the political leadership of the former ruling party has hijacked this funeral from the family, and that is the reason why even the so-called family spokesperson is a former minister in the former government who has been a lawyer to the family of the late president, including being a lawyer to the late president. So this whole matter has unnecessarily been dragged in political deluge.
Okay. So it appears that the family doesn't want the involvement of President Hichilema in this entire process. And yes, whether it's politics from the former ruling party that's now affecting, or as you say, hijacking this from the family seems to believe that these people didn't enjoy a good relationship, former President Lungu and President Hichilema, and therefore they didn't want him to be there. So at what point as a government are you going to respect those wishes of the family?
Firstly, culturally, being African, we know that you can differ as family members. But when you have a calamity of the scale that we are now faced with, of losing one amongst your number, you put your differences aside and mourn the departed with honor, with dignity, and send them off, give them a befitting farewell, especially when you're talking about a former president. And also, I think that things must be put into perspective, that the feud between the current president, Hakainde Hichilema, and the former president has been taken out of context to portray as though the current president has, ostracized his friend. There is nothing of that sort. And we have been respectful as government and as members of the party in government who suffered untold misery at the behest of the leadership of the former president. Our president, the current president, was arrested 17 times, one of which he was charged with the offense of treason, which is non-bailable. And he was in jail for almost 4 months. This is a man who, in the midst of the official campaigns in 2021, was not allowed to use Zambia's airspace. He was once held at an airport in Chipata, in the eastern province of the Republic of Zambia, for almost 4 hours. These are the issues that have happened. Many UPND, the ruling party's members, were killed by police, shot dead in cold blood. A number of them, others stabbed to death by thugs of the former ruling party. But here's the president who, the moment he won elections, in his first speech, acceptance speech, he said, no retaliation, no terrorism, no hooliganism. I want us to open a new page. We are not going to continue on this trajectory of violence. And there has been no violence, no terrorism, no bloodletting, nothing of that sort. And that is where we are today. The former president, the late President Edgar Lungu, is the first former president who has left office and has gone to he has passed on with his immunity, presidential immunity against legal prosecution intact. He's the only one. And this is a man who has never even received a police call out, not even appearing at police, just a call out.
Yeah.
He has never, because the current president, has taken it in stride and in national interest that we open a new page, that we cannot make it a ceremony, that each time you have a new leadership, each time you have a new president, the former president goes into jail.
Yeah, unless of course they've got crimes to answer to. But when President Lungu got sick, did the state assist with transporting him to South Africa? Because I suppose from what I've heard from the family is that those are some of the issues that they have, that when this person was sick, where was government? And now government somehow is ready to charter a plane to take his body back home. And the family seems to say you can't treat someone with such disrespect and not care when they are sick, and then you want to be all smiles with flowers at the funeral.
I can now tell you that all that which is playing out is being exaggerated to fit a particular narrative which they have been, harping at for a very long time now. Zambia's democratic space is widening, but they have been telling the international community, no, we are not allowed to assemble, all sorts of allegations. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to exemplify their force that, all hasn't been well in this country. And they are using this funeral as a political counterweight.
Was he supported, though, when he was sick?
When President Lungu, this particular time, was about to go into South Africa, the government of the Republic of Zambia, led by President Hakainde Hichilema, made more than one offer to take him out for medicals. And he refused. This they know. And this, the Secretary to Cabinet did tell the world at a joint press conference where family members were. The issue they are trying to raise about, the president did not take him for medicals and so on. All that is falsity. Because look, the former president enjoyed certain amenities in line with former President's Benefits Act, Chapter 15 of the laws of Zambia, wherein a former president who has retired from active politics is entitled to a government house, transport, security, office staff, and medical attention, and a return air ticket to a destination of his choice around the world for a holiday once per year. Now, the moment you decide as a former president that you are going back to active politics, and active politics has been defined by the courts to mean that you are seeking elective office, you then cease to enjoy those entitlements.
Yeah. So
it is during his time when he was in active politics that then government, as by law established, could not confer to him those entitlements which they are now claiming were not given to him.
Okay, so is that the reason why then his presidential benefits were revoked? Because he had decided to re-enter politics in 2026?
He had decided to re-enter politics on 28th of October 2023, having retired from politics via a written document to the Secretary to the Cabinet, the head of the civil service, on the 26th August 2021. And from 26th August 2021 to 28th August 2023, he enjoyed all the amenities that the law provides, which law was promulgated and enacted in 1993.
Okay, just lastly, is the government of Zambia prepared to reach a compromise with the family? If the family says, okay, we can agree that his body comes to Zambia and he can be buried there, but we don't want President Hichilema to preside over the burial. Are you prepared to accept that compromise if the family suggests it?
Vincent, this is not a wedding. You know that if you are going to conduct a wedding, you can come up with a wish list of who you want to attend. Where in Africa have you ever seen a prescription of who should attend a funeral and who is not? Even a social in the village is tolerated at a funeral. So this whole debacle is not really, in our view, a wish that should be sustained. This is meant to embarrass the head of state. And also, if I were to ask you, if that were to be the case that the president should not attend, in the region, the former president, Edgar Lungu, had an alumni of friends that, or a collegiality of presidents that he worked with. Now, if they decide to come for his burial, for instance, who is going to host them? Because according to government procedure and protocol, anywhere in the world where President Ramaphosa, for instance, has to come for a burial. Just as an example.
The state is going to host them.
Former President Lungu. Who is going to host him?
The state. The state will host them, but the president is not the state.
Now, the point which I would like you and our dear listeners to accept is that this issue is calibrated deliberately to try and ostracize the current president. And I can tell you that if President HH was like they are trying to portray him today, I don't think that things would have been the way they are, except that facts should be, let bare.
Okay.
The issue here is two dynamics. One, the issue of politicians taking over. And then secondly, we understand that the children of the former president and the wife were and are appearing before the courts of law. But they do not enjoy the presidential immunity against legal prosecution that the former president enjoyed. They are now turning into...
Minister, I'm out of time, but just quickly on this. If the benefits were revoked, why are you then offering a presidential funeral?
At this particular moment, we are talking about a former president who is not seeking an elective office, who is not in active politics. He is deceased and therefore is entitled, just like any other minister or former president, to a state funeral. And this is very precedented because 5 of Zambia's presidents that have passed on ahead of President Edgar Lungu, they've all been buried in the same way. There is a tradition. We have a presidential burial site. And you recall that Dr. Kaunda, the founding president of Zambia, when he died, his family, his children, they came up with a wish list. No, he said that he wants to be buried next to his wife at a farm in Chinsali in the northern province of Zambia. But the matter went into litigation and the court pronounced itself that in a matter of this nature, public interest overrides
Trump's family's interest. Yeah, Minister Cornelius Moetwa in Zambia for us. Thank you for making time for us. He's the Zambian Minister of Information and Media. How do you slice this? Because the president, it appears, doesn't want to. Imagine Jacob Zuma, the former president, dies. God forbid. Touch wood. If he says, I don't want Cyril Ramaphosa at my funeral, do you think President Cyril Ramaphosa must just force himself there when he could maybe say, Deputy President, go and preside over there, given the complexity, the dynamics, and the wishes of the family? Zambia is not willing to do that. They want the president to speak at the funeral. But the family says, okay, fine. The compromise could be, let's bring the body there, but the president can't preside over. What's wrong with putting yourself aside to allow for the people of Zambia to still pay their last respects to a former president?
Travel isn't just about destinations. It's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabocha, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It's 4 minutes before 10.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
2 minutes before 10 o'clock.
Good morning. Good morning. Clement, you're totally wrong. The state cannot host, other states' president without the presence of the president of that state. I mean, seriously, let's be real. You cannot be having, presidents coming into our country here and you say that the state is going to host them in the absence of our president. How does that work? Themba Vundla.
Morning, Clement. This guy, I don't think he understands what he says. He says that everything was revoked because he came back to the politics. But now, since everything was revoked, why should now be part of the funeral? Brabie, Clement, Brabie. No.